This to the story of a rankless soldier who became a lieutenant in a blink of an eye. Black. The sound of wind howling across a ruined field. Artillery thunders faintly in the distance, then silence. Out of the smoke and shattered earth, a hand claws from beneath a wrecked transport truck. Bloodied, trembling, alive. Cassian Wolfe drags himself out, young, maybe 26, eyes sharp despite the dirt and blood. His uniform is shredded. His dog tags, gone. His name, forgotten by the world. Bodies litter the ground. Some still twitch. Wolfe limps through the corpses, breath ragged, boots sinking into soaked mud. Up ahead, a jeep lies flipped on its side, engine hissing. A lieutenant's body is half crushed beneath it, untouched except for the hole in his chest. Wolfe kneels beside him. He doesn't flinch. He studies the body like a puzzle. The uniform is clean. Rank pins still shine. With a grim determination, Wolfe strips the corpse, wipes the blood from his own face, and pulls the lieutenant's coat onto his back. The moment he buttons it up, he's no longer a survivor. He's an officer. Inside a command tent stitched with bullet holes and panic, Wolfe stands before a broken mirror. His own reflection stares back, eyes deeper than before, colder. Behind him, a young private, barely 19, rushes in, panting. "Sir, you're the highest-ranking one left. Command needs orders." Wolfe doesn't respond right away. He looks down at his trembling hands, then clenches them into fists. He speaks with calm fire. "Secure the east trench. Set claymores. I want them bleeding before they reach our wire." The private salutes and bolts out. Wolfe exhales. The fear is there, but it's buried under layers of instinct, grit, and something darker. He wasn't trained for this, but he was born for it. Rain falls like judgment. The trench is quiet, just whispers and the sound of teeth chattering in cold mouths. Wolfe crouches over a dirt-smeared map. He points to a ridge no one noticed. "They'll flank from here. We bait them through the riverbed. Then we bury them." A grizzled sergeant looks skeptical. "That's not protocol, sir." "Neither was yesterday," Wolfe answers flatly. "And we lost a battalion." The men obey, not because of his rank, but because something in his voice makes you believe he survived worse. They dig. They set traps. They pray. Then they wait. At dawn, the enemy comes, confident and loud. Wolfe watches them from a foxhole, mud streaked across his cheek. They march straight into the trap. Claymores erupt. Screams. Gunfire. Smoke. Wolfe moves through the chaos like a phantom, barking orders, dragging wounded men to cover, firing precisely. One shot, one kill. He doesn't blink when blood hits his face. He doesn't hesitate when he has to kill a man at arm's length. He is brutal, efficient, and calm. When the dust settles, Wolfe stands among twisted metal and lifeless bodies. He's covered in mud and blood, but his eyes are bright, like they've just seen the path to something bigger. Days later, he walks through the doors of a military headquarters. Officers turn. A general greets him with a handshake. "Lieutenant Wolfe, you saved that sector. Smart work. Clean. Ruthless." Wolfe gives a polite nod. The general studies him. "Your files, odd. No formal academy training. No mention before last quarter." Wolfe's voice is quiet. "I was a ghost before this war, sir." The general smirks. "Well, ghost or not, the promotions board is watching. Keep this up, you'll be more than a lieutenant." As the general walks away, Wolfe stares out through the frosted glass. He sees himself reflected in the window, no longer a man pretending to wear a uniform, but something more dangerous. The real lieutenant never made it out of that field. Wolfe buried him in silence. But the uniform, the rank, that stayed above ground. And with it, Wolfe began to rise. He closes his eyes, the sound of distant artillery echoing again. The sky over camp was a dying gray when Cassian returned. Mud caked his boots. Blood dried on his knuckles. No medals awaited him, only silence. The real soldier whose identity he'd stolen was still listed as missing in action. The papers he'd forged were holding, for now. But suspicion was rising. Major Kellerman, a hawk-eyed veteran who'd seen too many young men die and too few return with Wolfe's grit, watched him closely. "You move like a man who's fought before," he'd said, voice graveled with gunpowder and bourbon. "But your file says you've barely seen combat." Cassian gave a slight shrug. Sometimes the dead don't get a chance to speak. That line stuck with Kellerman, because he'd said it himself once, during the Eastern Campaign. It disarmed him, enough to let Cassian breathe for another week. Still, one misstep could collapse everything. And Cassian knew it. So he didn't rest. Every morning, before reveille, he was on the training field, drilling harder than any enlisted man. Marksmanship, hand-to-hand, fieldcraft. He fought like someone who had nothing left to lose, and that made him terrifying to the rest. His brutality in drills earned him enemies. But fear spread faster than gossip. Then came the mission to the Black Ridge Pass, a suicide recon. 3 squads had gone in. None returned. Cassian volunteered. They gave him 5 men. New blood. Scared boys, none older than 20. But by the time they reached the outer tree line, they followed him like wolves follow an alpha. Under moonlight, they infiltrated the ridge. Cassian slit throats without sound. He coordinated silent kills like a maestro conducting death. At dawn, he returned, face cold, uniform torn, dragging a wounded squadmate and the severed radio of the enemy's outpost. He'd not only completed the recon, he'd crippled their communications. Kellerman watched in stunned silence as Cassian dropped the enemy intel at his feet. "You're either the luckiest bastard in this army," he muttered, "or something else entirely." Cassian didn't blink. "I'm what you made me." Within a week, they promoted him. Lieutenant Wolfe. The title rang hollow in his ears. He wasn't a soldier. He was a ghost wearing a uniform. But the lie had become legend. Soldiers whispered his name at night like he was a myth. What they didn't know, what no one could know, was that the myth was built on a body buried without a name. And Wolfe wasn't done yet. He was just getting started. This is just the beginning.